Here we go again. It's your host Utkarsh, holding up the mirror, nudging your comfort zone, and maybe making you question a few things you'd rather leave alone. I understand it's not always fun being reminded that growth isn't comfortable, but when you truly care about someone, you don't just echo their comfort. You offer what their soul might be quietly asking for. Because real love doesn't push or pull, it simply stands beside you, steady, honest, and open handed. Met with grace or resistance, it still remains rooted in truth. Let's take a moment here. We've been on this journey for a little while now, and that feels like a quiet milestone worth acknowledging. And yet, I realize that I've only just begun to scratch the surface of everything I want to explore in this series. Because as you probably know by now, this isn't just some quick fix, feel good transformation. We're not chasing appearances. We are reprogramming how we think, how we act, and how we show up in a chaotic little world that's always trying to convince us that we are not enough. But here's your reminder: you are enough. And with a little push, a little awareness, and some consistency, we all can grow together and eventually start speaking the same inner language. Like I said in the last episode, you don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to start and let consistency take over. So, in today's episode, we talk about the states of consciousness and the levels of awareness that shape our entire experience of reality. I'm keeping the heavy jargon to a minimum today. Of course, I'll be discussing a few timeless ideas from ancient wisdom and a couple insights from my lived experiences. But mostly, I want to walk you through something real, something practical. Let's begin by looking at the two key physiological states that quietly govern how we move through life. First, the hypometabolic state, and the second one is hypermetabolic state. Now, these are not just science textbook terms, these are deeply linked to how we breathe, think, and feel. The hypermetabolic state is the one we all know too well, that fight or flight mode, shallow breath, fast heartbeats, adrenaline through the roof. In this state, we are reactive, impulsive, overwhelmed. It's not sustainable, but it's become our normal. On the other end, we've got the hypometabolic state. This is deep rest, cellular healing, clarity, and calm. This is what happens in meditation, in breath work, and in true stillness. And what connects the two? Your breath. It's literally the remote control to your nervous system. With every conscious inhale and exhale, you're literally choosing how to feel and how to heal. So, when we talk about conscious breathing, we're not just talking about relaxing, we're talking about shifting states. We're talking about choosing awareness over autopilot. Now, this brings us back to episode 4, where we explored waking consciousness and brain physiology. Remember that comparison between a non meditator and someone who practices consistently? That shift in brain coherence we talked about? It wasn't just a random effect, it was biology aligning with intention. In our next episode, we'll take that further. We'll discuss how dissolving the ego is a key step towards accessing the fourth state of consciousness. But for now, today, let's connect it to the powerful theme we are diving into in this episode. So, if intention can shape biology and biology influences awareness, then what's really happening beneath the surface of our daily lives? That's the focus of our conversation right now. A fresh framework that weaves together consciousness, awareness, and emotional behavior. But to really feel that framework, we need to grasp how the nervous system shapes awareness because they are not separate, they are connected. Your nervous system is the bridge between your biology and your perception. And once you get that, everything else starts to make sense. Now, to make this click even deeper, I want to share a simple story. It's short, kind of funny, but it holds something powerful. It comes from the late writer David Foster Wallace. He once opened a commencement speech with this parable. He said, two young fish are swimming along, and they pass an older fish going the other way. The older fish nods and says, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" The young fish swims on for a bit until one turns to the other and says, "What the heck is water?" It's a joke, but also it's everything. Because the point is, they are surrounded by water, but they don't even see it. And that's what life is like. We're all surrounded by emotional patterns, mental loops, beliefs that we have picked up without question. But we don't even know they are there. That's where levels of awareness come in. The moment you start to notice the water, something shifts. You rise, you begin to wake up. And from that space, you engage with life consciously. Let's anchor into that framework now. Let's explore what these four levels of awareness actually look like in the mind. This is not about judgment, it's about observation. And what you'll begin to notice is that not everyone is operating from the same level of awareness. That's not a moral issue, it's just a fact of human evolution, emotional, psychological, and spiritual. Let's dive in. So, the first is the restless mind, state of need, not awareness. This mind state is trapped in the lower frequencies. It chases validation, craves entertainment, consumes more than it creates. It doesn't pause because pausing feels like emptiness. So it fills the silence with noise and the noise with more noise. But underneath all that motion is a profound inner disconnection, a fear of being still because stillness reveals truth. This is where most suffering begins, in confusion between stimulation and peace. Second one is the conflicted mind, intelligence at war with itself. This mind thinks deeply, maybe even spiritually, but without clarity. It questions everything, including itself, and it often spirals into guilt, doubt, and self blame. This mind may want to grow but resists change. It intellectualizes healing but fears letting go. This is where so many of us get stuck. We know better, but we just can't act on it. And looking back, I can see now that's exactly where I was 2 years ago. Lost, stuck in my head, spinning in confusion. Until something shifted. I committed to a simple, steady routine, and that discipline became my turning point. It did not fix everything overnight, but it gave me the structure to start showing up for myself and for the life I actually wanted to live. The third one is the aware mind. Here, a shift happens. The mind becomes less reactive, more curious. It starts asking better questions. Why do I feel this way? What am I believing that isn't true? This mind begins to understand that external chaos often mirrors internal confusion. It slows down, it reflects, it starts to choose not from fear but from clarity. The fourth one is the aligned mind, peace beyond preference. This mind no longer argues with reality. It stops needing to win, it stops needing to be seen. It moves with awareness, serves without ego, and creates without attachment. This mind trusts the timing of things. It's not passive, but deeply powerful because it's not trying to control what it cannot control. This is the state where consciousness becomes stable, where the soul feels at home. It brings to mind something we explored in episode 5, the life of Eddie Jaco, a Holocaust survivor who lived to be 101. After enduring years of brutal trauma in a concentration camp, he still chose to call himself the happiest man on earth. Psychologically, that kind of resilience doesn't come from denial, it comes from deep integration. It points to a nervous system that over time learns how to re regulate, how to find safety again, how to choose meaning over memory. And I can't help but wonder what kind of strength is needed to rebuild after life breaks you open in ways you never asked for. What kind of inner stability, mental endurance, and emotional surrender does it take to feel whole again? Because the states we are exploring, they are not just milestones to check off. They are living, shifting patterns. They rise and fall like waves. And the real growth begins not when we try to control them, but when we learn to ride them with awareness. These states are not labels, they are waves. We all fluctuate between them. Even the most peaceful person still dips into restlessness sometimes. But the point of self awareness isn't perfection, it's progress. The goal is not to become someone else. The goal is to become less enslaved by the lower states of mind. Now let's shift for a moment. Let's talk about something sacred. In our last episode, we explored air and space, the final two elements in the Panchabhutas. Today, let's connect the dots by briefly touching on the first three: earth, water, and fire. Here's something I often return to in moments of quiet reflection, a devotional hymn that carries a deeper symbolism for this journey. It's called the Parvati Panchakam, a Sanskrit prayer dedicated to goddess Parvati, the divine feminine. The hymn doesn't list the five elements directly, but through its poetry, you feel them. Let me explain. It's a devotional interpretation of goddess Parvati as the elements. First one is earth. In one verse, Parvati is called Dharadharendra Nandini, the daughter of the mountain king. This represents grounding and stability, the earth that holds us steady. Second is water. In the same verse, she is called Pratirana Shirna Tarine, the one who ferries us across the ocean of suffering. She is like sacred water, flowing, purifying, carrying us home. Third is fire. In the opening verse, she is Prachanda Chanda Rashmi Rashmi Rashi Shobhita, radiant with fierce rays. She is fire, transforming illusion, illuminating darkness. So, in essence, she is the earth that grounds us, the river that purifies us, and the fire that burns through illusion. This is not just about a deity, it's about recognizing that the divine feminine in mythology and within us holds the keys to stability, compassion, and transformation. Mythology reminds us of who we are at our core, but it's awareness that brings those truths to life. So the real question becomes, how do we move from the restless mind towards the aligned mind? We don't fight our thoughts, we observe them. We stop trying to fix the world and start working on the only thing we have real power over, our own nervous system, our own beliefs, our own patterns. This is the path of self realization, not in grand declarations, but in subtle daily moments. Moments when you choose awareness over reactivity, silence over reaction, stillness over speed. Now, before we wrap up, let's shift into something beautiful. I want to show you this short clip from the movie Interstellar, where Dr. Brand talks to Cooper about love. Please pay close attention to the words and feel free to draw your own conclusions. I'll share my thoughts right after you're done watching the clip.
Hey, I love you forever. You hear me? I love you forever. I'm coming back. I know you're going to get this message. Professor Brands assured me that he's going to get it to you. Know that I love you.
Love isn't something we invented. It's observable, powerful. It has to mean something.
Love has meaning, yes. Social utility, social bonding, child rearing.
We love people who have died. Where's the social utility in that?
None.
Maybe it means something more, something we can't yet understand. Maybe it's some evidence, some artifact of a higher dimension that we can't consciously perceive. I'm drawn across the universe to someone I haven't seen in a decade, who I know is probably dead. Love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space.
All of this is one little girl's bedroom. Every moment. It's infinitely complex. They have access to infinite time and space, but they're not bound by anything. They can't find a specific place in time. They can't communicate. That's why I'm here. I'm going to find a way to tell Murph, just like I found this moment. Love, Tars, love.
That scene gives me chills every time because it puts into words something many of us have felt but rarely know how to explain. That maybe love is not just an emotion or a chemical reaction, but a force, a field of intelligence that transcends space and time. Something that moves through us, guides us, and connects us to something far greater than the individual self. And when we say higher power, this is what we are really talking about. Not a man in the sky, but an underlying intelligence that speaks through intuition, through synchronicity, and most intimately through love. What I have learned through my own practice is this: you can actually feel this love, not just as a sweet emotion, but as a stabilizing current that lives inside your breath, your stillness, your awareness. It's not abstract, it's not poetic, it's real. And it becomes accessible when the mind slows down enough to receive it. Through deep meditation, mindful breathing, and consistent inner inquiry, you begin to tune into that signal. And what happens next is almost miraculous. Your mind starts rewiring itself, not through effort, but through alignment. You begin to feel more connected, less reactive, and surprisingly at peace, even when the world outside hasn't changed. That's the power of tuning into a higher love, not just as an idea, but as a lived experience. Now, to end, let me leave you with this: love and kindness are the simplest and most powerful tools we have, not to change others, but to recenter ourselves. You don't need to fight minds stuck in confusion or convince them of anything. You just need to remember your own center. Nobody's perfect. That's not a cliche, it's a spiritual truth. Every one of us is on a path. Some minds may never even awaken in this lifetime, and that's okay. But your mind can. And through your awareness, you can create space, peace, and possibility for others without force, without judgment. We don't need to overpower chaos, we just need to embody clarity. The rest takes care of itself. Thank you for being here. See you in episode 7. Namaste.